Yes, these two idiots are still producing podcasts. I cannot believe it either. Their families asked him to stop. Their ladies told him to stop. They just will not listen. So buckle up. And spoiler warning, I guess. Here is some more tripe.
Welcome to episode 5 of the Horror of Babylon, where we will be discussing episodes 3 and 4 of the Stand miniseries from 1994. I'm your host, Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Alright, let's just jump right into it. So we have just watched the last 2 episodes of the first Stand miniseries, and we are here to share our thoughts with you this evening. We're going to go ahead and jump straight into characters, and we were just talking about in our pre-show how we've thought overall it's a pretty faithful adaptation, especially the book 3 sections.
Yeah, like the last 2 episodes were more faithful than the first 2.
Yes. So how do you think they portrayed Stu's story in the miniseries?
I mean, aside from us getting to see him, shit his own pants when he's sick,
Yeah.
It was pretty much beat for beat. He had all the build-up of a leader and then accomplished nothing by the end of the story.
Yeah, while we were watching it, we were talking about the controversy over Raiders of the Lost Ark, where people will say that the plot of the story moves along regardless if Indiana Jones is there or not, and Book 3 and Stu Redman are kind of the same way, where nothing really changes.
Yeah, he affects books 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But by the end, I mean, why is he there?
Because he was in Book 1 and Book 2.
Yeah. And King didn't want to kill him off.
No. Not that I'm not happy he got to live. That's nice. That's good for him and Franny. But yeah, and and then touching on Gary Sinise, I thought Gary Sinise was one of the stronger actors.
Yeah, no, he did a good job.
Did a great job.
I mean, when you're given a 90s miniseries script, there are a lot of choices you can make, and we will talk about some of the choices people have made.
Yeah.
But I think he played his part straight, you know what I mean? He treated the material as serious as he could without chewing up too much scenery. We'll talk about that with other characters.
Moving on, talking about Larry Underwood, who is played by Adam Stork. That's somebody who I was critical of, especially in the first episode. I thought he was just a little too over the top. I kept saying that he was kind of a slime ball. He
was a greaser, yeah.
Yeah, he went a little far with the whole greaser thing, but I felt like he really leveled out his performance.
Yeah, it was completely scaled back. It was more what I was expecting out of the performance.
Which I guess kind of goes along with Larry's character being humbled in the latter part of the story.
Yeah.
What did you think about Larry's portrayal and also his relationship with Nadine, how that worked?
I thought Larry, the guy who played Larry, did it. Again, I'm going to give him passing marks. He didn't take me out of the experience. He was a lot more harsh with Nadine in his scene.
Yeah, he fucking threw her on the ground.
Than he was in the book. I can't remember if he pushed her away in the book and she fell, but in this he tosses her.
Yeah, he grabs her by the shoulders and throws her on the ground.
I'm going to be skipping ahead to Nadine here because it kind of plays in with this.
We can cover Nadine here too, that's fine.
Nadine shows up in Boulder, and I predicted last time that wasn't going to happen. That she was going to pretty much have Dana's death, all that stuff. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad that I was wrong. But because she shows up in Boulder, I'm sitting there left wondering, why did they bother to separate them? Why did they bother to not have her with Joe? When she shows up in that scene, there's not that much reason for Lucy to be jealous of her because there was no interaction. She didn't see him pining after her. And you also lose a lot of the things I like the conflict. you get in the book, you get to see the good in Nadine and what is possible if she rejects being the bad person, which is a lot of what The Stand is these characters are given these opportunities to either be good or be bad. But in the movie adaptation, you only get to see her as like almost an unstable individual who leaves and then shows back up.
I think the choice was really made to simplify the story, because if you separate Nadine from Joe,
Yeah.
then you don't even have to get into that part of the story, and you don't have to touch the complex relationship that the four of them had with Nadine mom and Lucy mom and Larry's
Which
there.
makes sense for simplifying it, but you lose so much in the process.
Right, and I agree with that part.
Because let's just say someone just watched the miniseries, which is a lot of people. Some people just watched the movie.
Right.
They're going to be sitting there wondering, why would Larry even make this choice of the woman who just, A, didn't sleep with him, and B, just abandoned him in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, there's no choice there. You obviously go with Lucy.
Yeah, because she's been the one with the kid and the one you're raising it with.
And there was some temptation with Larry to go back to Nadine in the book.
Yeah, and to their credit, they didn't really seem to portray any of that temptation in the miniseries, because why would there be any?
Right.
But that was probably my biggest criticism of these parts is Nadine, the stuff they cut for Nadine.
But big shout out to the actress who played her, Laura San Giacomo.
Yeah.
She did a great job, especially the parts with Flag.
Oh, those were great.
She played it so well, and it's I honestly think it's hard to play crazy. Like, I see a lot of actors and actresses play crazy, and I'm like, I don't buy it.
My favorite scene was just when she's walking to the ledge of the background while Flag's talking to Lloyd.
As soon as it showed that shot of Flag and Lloyd, I was like, I hope it just shows her walking to the window in the back. And that's what we got.
Yeah, it was great. That's a great shot.
Yeah, so she was great, and then kind of wrapping up with Larry, I thought his character was a lot better in the last two episodes, a lot more scaled back. His story was it was a good adaptation of his story, very true to the book. Mm-hmm. And as we discussed when we did our book episode, if you didn't listen to our book episodes, we were pretty critical of book 3 with how it left a lot of the characters, but Larry was one of the ones where we were like, well, he actually has like a total arc.
Yeah, he has a complete arc, and it's pretty much the same here. It's a little scaled back because of the loss of Nadine, but
right. And I mean, in part of that's just the restrictions they're under.
Yeah.
But overall, pretty happy with Larry and his story and all of that. Okay, so moving on to Fran. Speaking of which, if you didn't listen to our book episodes, we were both huge fans of Fran in book 1, and then it just got worse in book 2, and even worse in book 3. And it's no different here in the miniseries.
And this is another one of those Daniel's left feeling confused, because it turns out she is pregnant.
Yeah.
And last time we were like, okay, guess they're just skipping that whole story arc, so what are they going to do?
Because they don't... There are... I guess I had read some reviews and some other people's thoughts. There are clues in episode 1 and 2 that she's pregnant.
I just must not have been that observant.
Yeah, me too. But it doesn't explicitly say she's pregnant until episode 3.
Yeah.
When Stu offers her some of Glenn's sleeping pills.
I feel knowing that ahead of time could have helped with the tension in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because I heard that and I was like, oh, okay, guess I was wrong about that too.
I was also waiting for Stu to ask if it was Harold's baby.
Oh, that would have been so funny. That would have been so funny. I wouldn't have been able to watch anymore tonight. I would have been laughing the rest of the time.
Good on him for not asking.
Yeah.
But I feel like most men would have asked that question. But I'm good on him. He woke as hell.
I only ever ask if it's mine, so.
Yeah. Well, he knew it wasn't his.
Yeah.
Molly Ringwald was great. It sucks that she didn't get to do more.
Yeah, I I don't like a lot of movies that Molly Ringwald's in. I feel there's just a little bit of a generational gap, but I always love her in them. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm one of the few assholes on the planet that doesn't like The Breakfast Club.
I think you're the only asshole on the planet who doesn't like
I am so bored by that movie. But anytime she's talking, I'm like, oh, she's such a good actress. I hope I see her in something good next time.
I did like the last scene in the hospital was nice. It's a little clouded for me because I just don't like the end of the story altogether. Yeah. But that scene in a vacuum is nice, and she does a good job in it.
The floating Mother Abigail head was a little...
That was weird.
Yeah, that was a choice.
Yeah, and they never let Joe talk, so at the end he's just like, oh!
Yeah.
So that was awkward.
Yeah. If I was writing that miniseries, I probably would have just cut Joe out altogether.
Yeah, honestly. I mean...
Because you didn't get to see Larry help him develop, which helps Larry develop.
You didn't really get to see... They hinted about his shine, but you don't really get to see it as explicitly as you see it in the book.
Yeah, like if you're going to cut something, and like if you're strapped for time, that's what I would have cut.
Yeah. And it's... As sad as it is, probably could have cut Lucy, too.
Probably could have cut Lucy, too.
I mean, he didn't have to have Lucy to reject Nadine.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have seen that she was bad for him regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know, but not that I'm advocating for taking more things out, because I'm not.
Just when you're sitting there watching it, and you know everything that's missed, even if I had not read the book, I would have probably been sitting there like, what's up with this kid? Mm-hmm. But, I don't know.
Okay, so moving on to Nick Andros. So I'm wondering, like, if Rob Lowe was a pretty big star in the 80s, and I'm wondering if he, like, got the script for the 4 episodes, and he's like, so I'm just in the first 2, but I'm in episode 3 a little bit, and I don't talk?
This will be a time for me to show off my non-verbal acting chops.
Mm-hmm. I think they did a better job in episode 3 of making sure that Nick was looking at people when they talk.
Yeah.
That bothered me a lot in the first 2 episodes where people were talking to him, but he wasn't looking at them.
And it still looked like he was reacting to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was actually looking for stuff like that. I didn't notice anything in episode 3.
No, I was looking for it too, and nothing stood out.
Yeah. Not as egregiously as like with Mother Abigail.
There was the one scene in the bleachers where Stu, Ralph, Nick, and Glenn are talking, and Glenn is speaking, and he's facing away from Nick, and it shows Nick like moving his neck to try and get a look at Glenn's face.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that, but I was like, hey Glenn, can you be nice and face Nick? He can't hear. You're not being very considerate right now.
Glenn the ableist.
Yeah. And like Molly Ringwald, I thought that this was kind of... Rob Lowe is a good actor, but this wasn't really like a role for him to like show that off.
Yeah.
Not saying it's like beneath him or anything. It's just it's a smaller part with not a lot of acting in it, honestly.
Yeah, they're just not. I hate being this dude, but when you're cutting out as much from the book as you need to fit it into 4 episodes, it also leaves a lot of the chances for you to do stuff.
Right. Yep, no, that's for sure. And since we just mentioned him, Glenn, I think my favorite scene in the entire miniseries is Glenn's death scene.
Yeah, no, that was a great scing.
I thought that was great.
The actor did a good job.
Yeah.
He did the old sociologist, like when we were talking about our dream casting.
Yep.
It's like, no, he played that part good.
And then, where he gets shot, and then it cuts to Larry and Ralph holding hands through the bars in their cells. Like,
yeah.
I think that's the only part that like really got me emotionally, that I was a little tearing up a little bit. Like, that one was pretty great.
Yeah. I actually agree with you on that. It's between that and just seeing Nadine walking to the ledge for me for my favorite scenes.
Yeah, that was pretty great too. He's played by Ray Walston, who I said he was a little older than I pictured Glenn,
yeah,
but it worked out really well. And then moving to Lloyd, I think now that I've read the whole book and I've seen the entire first miniseries and read a chunk of the comics, I think I'm prepared to say that Lloyd is my favorite character.
Lloyd is up there. I'm still leaning more Larry and books 1 and 2 Harold, but Lloyd would be in the top 3.
He's not a good man.
No.
But there's something in him that wants to be. And like Larry, he has a full arc.
Yeah. And he sort of is that character that was put in the opposite position of everybody else. Mm-hmm. He was saved by Flag first, so of course you're going to go with this guy. And his whole arc is like him justifying it to himself.
Yeah, and he didn't get a choice like everybody else did.
Yeah.
Well, I guess his choice was go with Flag or die.
I think his choice happened, his ultimate choice anyway, happens when he's confronted by Glenn in the cell. And Glenn's like, just shoot Flag instead.
Right.
And that's when he has to make his ultimate, and he, like Harold, he chooses wrong.
Right.
But that's still when you get to see all the gears turning, when you get to see the logic of the reasons he's using.
I think the word that jumps out is loyalty.
Yeah.
Misplaced loyalty, because obviously Randall Flagg is an evil, bad man, but Lloyd knows that he is where he is because of Flagg, and he says, I am going to stick with Flagg no matter what till the end.
A lot of people will make very poor decisions based off of loyalty. Mm-hmm. Especially men.
Yeah.
At least in my experience. But
I agree with that.
But I agree. The actor who played him, I still can't imagine anyone else as him.
Miguel Ferrer.
Yeah, I can. As big of a fan of this dude as I am, I can never remember his name, and I love him to death. If I was a woman, I'd pull a Dean and sleep with him. That is how I feel about this actor.
Yeah, but you wouldn't fake it.
No, I would not fake it.
So, apparently he was on NCIS for years and years, and
Yeah.
he was in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, he was in Twin Peaks. He's my favorite character in Twin Peaks.
And he was Deathstroke in the Judas Contract Teen Titans movie.
I did not recognize his voice in that. That's actually pretty impressive.
And he was also Vandal Savage in Young Justice. That's cool.
Okay. He's got some DC creds. I like this guy.
DC credits.
Yeah. As good of an actor as I find this dude, I don't see him in very much like what you would call, I guess, mainstream stuff.
He's Martian Manhunter in Justice League: The New Frontier. I don't know what that is, and he was Sinestro in The Batman. He has a lot of DC creds.
He is in so much DC stuff. Oh my god.
And he was a regular on the Jackie Chan Adventures.
Oh, I hope he didn't play Jackie Chan.
No.
I know.
No.
I'm just playing.
Superman the Animated Series, he played Aquaman.
Wow.
He's done lots of different DC characters. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew this. He's the villain in Mulan. I knew that.
I did not know that.
Night Flyer, of course.
Shining miniseries.
He's in the I knew that.
Yeah.
Forgot. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
And he was in Tales from the Crypt, which I didn't know, but makes sense.
I mean, he has a long career.
He was in the new Twin Peaks and the old Twin Peaks, and he played the same character.
Well, it's a continuation.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. You'd like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I've had it recommended to me many times.
I still say you should watch Midnight Mass before it.
Apparently, he's in Star Trek 3. I'm
gonna have to watch that again then.
Yeah, I'll have to look for him. Okay. And Star Trek 3 was like one of the first things he was in. Okay, cool. So yeah, we love Miguel Ferrer.
He just went over his whole IMDb.
Good luck to whoever plays Lloyd in the new miniseries, because you got big boots to fill.
Yeah.
And then Harold, go ahead. What are your thoughts on Harold?
I really loved his stunt double flying off the cliff during that motorcycle.
I swear the stunt double had a big beard. I swear he did.
I'm gonna have to watch that scene again, but I first of all, I wasn't expecting the motorcycle crash to be that like explicit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he flies over the cliff. There was he's listening to disco.
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote down the exact quote.
Don't mess with my disco Nadine.
Don't mess with my disco Nadine. Gonna get that tattoo. That's gonna be my new tramp stamp.
And then he says, "You'll be my disco queen," or something like that.
But when I first heard the disco music, he just had a dream sequence with Randall Flagg showing him where to get like the explosives.
Yeah.
And but I heard the disco music. I'm like, oh, this is montage music. Are we gonna get a bomb building montage? But no, it's
that
just
would have been pretty cool.
It's just him like building it in the basement. I would have said that it would have been a little weird tonally for that to be a montage, but I was like,
I'll dig it.
I was like, yeah, I'll be there.
So music, like whenever I read something and then a song is used in the movie or TV adaptation, it's never what I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time I saw the Watchmen movie and they used like 99 Red Balloons, I was like, this is not one of the songs that I would have associated with this story. But having rewatched the movie, I'm like, okay, I guess it kind of fine.
I am an apologist for that movie, but I will tell you it makes a lot of weird song choices.
Mm-hmm, it does. So let's not go down the Watchmen hole.
Yeah.
Let's...
I mean, his interactions with Nadine were fine. He played that virgin just getting his pee-pee touched very well.
Yeah, that was super awkward.
Yeah, it was awkward in that, yeah, it's an awkward kind of thing sort of way. I don't know what else there is to say about Harold. I love his jacket.
I hate his jacket. It's so bad.
Yeah, but that's why I love it. So that is what I picture someone from that time period trying to wear when what they think of as a badass. Oh, a badass wears a leather jacket
and rattlesnake skin cowboy boots.
It's like back when we were in college, and I used to wear fedoras and trench coats, and I also wasn't getting my pee-pee touched all that much. So the scene where he and Nadine are up on the hill, and they're about to blow up the house. He's wearing that studded leather jacket and black shorts, and like I wear shorts all the time, so I don't criticize anybody for that, but it just looks so weird. Yeah,
with that huge leather jacket and then itty bitty shorts.
It's a socially awkward dude trying to be fashionable, and it makes sense when I'm sitting there watching it.
They never called him Hawk.
Yeah, that was also sort of cut out. That's another thing I would have probably said, you can go ahead and cut that.
Yeah.
With everything else that you've cut.
Honestly, I thought that was kind of weird in the book. Like, it's a weird nickname.
It was a weird nickname. I liked him starting to be socially accepted and causing that conflict.
That's something they just don't really have time for.
Yeah, and if you were going to cut something, that's probably what I would have put on chopping block.
They also cut both his journal and Fran's journal.
And to be fair, that's also a lot of how many minutes would that have eaten up?
Quite a few.
Because then you also have to like show the pages or have it being read out loud so people know what's going on.
And honestly, just him seeing them in the woods.
That's enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
I really liked him digging, like he was shaking their hands and going, we're still friends, and then it shows he's dug into his palms because he was squeezing his fist so hard. I like that. That's a good little shot of showing his real emotions. And as much as corny as this was, there are shots like that I really like.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to Randall Flagg. So I'll be honest with you, in the first 2 episodes, I wasn't super impressed with the guy who plays Randall Flagg. But oh man, was I wrong, because that guy just totally owns it in these last 2 episodes.
The scenery was cheesecake and he was hungry.
Jamie Sheridan.
Yeah, he played it over the top, but at the same time I can kind of picture Randall Flagg having that over the top personality when he's interacting with people.
Right.
The demon makeup was a little much.
It was weird, but it was
that was 90s demon makeup.
I think that's something that one of my main points in defending the It miniseries. It doesn't really have any of those cringy effects.
Yeah.
It has mostly, if not all, practical effects, and they all look really good. I mean, giant spider aside.
The giant spider. My speech impediment is coming back out. The giant spider in that looks better than the remakes one.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
Oh, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, which is coming soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of the CG effects in this were really bad looking. Not that I'm saying that's a fault of it. That's just a restriction they were under at the time.
They wanted to convey that he's not actually human, which is in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And there are only so many ways you can do that. But at the same time, I'm like, the effect didn't look good. I don't think the makeup looked like he had started balding when horns came in. And I was just like, that doesn't scare me, bro. I'm going to introduce you to hair plugs, is what I would have said to that demon.
I thought what was a cooler effect was when, right in the beginning of the last episode, actually, I think it was the last episode, where he kills Bobby Ray or Bobby Terry or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And he has the crow feathers in his hair.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like I said when we were talking about episode 1. What you don't see can sometimes be scarier.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have they wanted their money shot, and I get it.
Yeah.
But sometimes what you don't see will make the audience imagine something better than you're capable of making. And that's my one criticism. I actually really like the actor. I think he did a good job. His interactions with Nadine had me cracking up.
Yeah.
And not in a I'm making fun of this sort of way, but in a I can get on board with this miniseries sort of way.
I went on the trip. I went on that trip. There were other trips in this show that I didn't get on. But
there were some choices. Trash Can Man made some choices, and I think they were all wrong.
All right, so let's talk about trash.
It was the first note I made. There are about 1 million ways you can deliver my life for you, and he chose every possible wrong one. It went from something that he said like once or twice in this sort of ominous sort of way to something he's shouting as a catchphrase.
In the book, he does use that line, but it's used at like dramatic points.
And it's... I can't remember if he ever screamed it in the book.
I'm not sure.
But I don't remember him screaming it in the book. In my mind's eye, I pictured it as more of this sort of ominous, my life for you, or something like that. Like
right.
Almost resignation or reverence. Mm-hmm. This was silly.
He was like a Pokemon named My Life for You, and it's the only thing he can say. But it's one of the only things he says in the entire show.
I think what the problem is in the book anyway, a lot of Trash Can Man it's all internal. It's things that he's remembering. It's him trying to work things out in his brain because it's not working right because of all the trauma he's lived through and how they tried to treat that trauma with shock therapy,
right?
And how it's led to just a completely broken individual. Well, they don't have movies don't tend to have internal dialogue very much, and when they do, it usually doesn't work. And so what was their solution? Well, we'll
just
have
make him batshit crazy,
actively hallucinate and shout some catchphrases. And I don't think it worked.
I can see it, Trash Can Man being a very hard character to adapt on the screen.
Yeah.
I like the actor Matt Frewer. He's played Sherlock Holmes. He was in Dawn of the Dead. I like him. I don't think he himself was at fault. Just the direction of the character altogether was kind of. But at the same time, like, I'm not really sure. I can't tell them what would have been better.
Yeah. What did you think of Stephen King's acting?
Bad as always, but I love him.
I've always gotten this impression of Stephen King, that he's a writer who made it big and then wanted to become an actor. He's like a wrestler who wants to transition from one to the other, and he just didn't have the range.
Right.
If Stephen King ever listens to this, I love you to death.
Yeah.
But that's the impression I've always got. What was it we were saying? I picture him as a dude who says like, whoa boy and boy howdy and stuff like that.
Just a lot of folksy witticisms.
Yeah, that's how I picture him talking, and he kind of talked like that in this.
In his defense, I do think he's gotten better over time. Like, okay, he was pretty awkward in The Stand. Him in Creepshow, where he plays the guy who gets eaten up by the weeds.
That was something where he could like chew the scenery a little bit and have a little more fun.
Right. But his scene in It Chapter 2, I think
that was
great.
good.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I also actually really liked him, and it's a very short little cameo, but in the original Pet Sematary.
Where he's the preacher.
Yeah. I think when you're Stephen King, you need a short scene.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, they used him actually a lot.
He was in...
He might have had like 5 whole minutes of screen time.
Yeah. Which is probably too much.
Yeah.
But... and then... Dana, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that we got pretty much all of Dana's story.
Yeah, we got Dana, we got the judge.
Yeah.
They put them both in Stu's group.
Yeah, instead of Larry's, which...
and the judge was in Larry's, which made... That was one of those weird scenes that was kind of... they had to mess around with it a little bit because Larry in this miniseries jokingly suggests the judge.
Right.
And then Stu's like, oh no, that's a great idea, because of course the guy who's traveled with him would think it's a great idea.
Right, but Larry didn't.
But Larry was like, no, I was kidding. But in the book, Larry suggests him because he traveled with him, he knows him.
Right.
And again, that's another one of those things you probably have to mess around with to cut for time, to have them all in a single group.
Yeah.
So there's not too many shots.
With these like long epic stories, you just have to simplify things.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, where can we cut some fat here to tell an easier story? How do we get from A to B without taking too much time?
But if I was going to do that, I would have probably just had Stu suggest them.
Yeah. I love that we got all of Dana's scene with Flag. I was worried that we were going to get like an abbreviated version or none of it.
I was 100% positive they were just going to use her death because it's such an iconic death for Nadine. And I'm glad I was wrong, because then I got both of them.
Yeah, I was also thinking that they were going to combine Dana and Nadine's characters. But we got both of them going. The situation was just a little different with Dana, where in the book she tries to throw herself out the window and fails because he grabs her, but then she uses the glass to kill herself. In the miniseries, she just uses it to die. But I mean,
it was one of those like iconic things, at least especially when you are reading a Stephen King book that actually has pictures.
Yeah. Ooh.
And then you get to see it. I'm like, I can't imagine them doing an adaptation and not having that in it.
No, that was definitely one of the best scenes of the book.
It'd be like It without the paper boat.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't work at all. And then we'll wrap up characters here with our buddy Tom.
Tom is played as Tom.
We had we don't talk a lot generally when we're watching movies, but we did have discussion about Tom and about sensitivity and how this type of character, the way they portrayed him, couldn't have really been done today. But how do you portray Tom Collins in a sensitive way?
I'm gonna say this, and if people want to cancel me down in the future, they can. There are people like Tom that exist,
right?
And sometimes in the name of sensitivity, people make us forget that they exist,
right?
But sometimes having them played can seem insensitive at the same time. So I don't know what the actual solution is.
Well, I mean, I think
it works in a book, is what I'm trying to say.
I think the most important thing is the audience treating the character as the butt of the joke, or is the audience on the side of the character? Like, I think...
And this kind of skirted that line.
Yeah.
At place at times.
I think for the most part, though, like, we're supposed to be with Tom and on Tom's side.
Yeah.
We're never, like...
I don't think it ever crossed that line. I just think it came up to it.
Yeah, it definitely did. And no shade to... I think his name is Bill Odenkirk.
No, I mean, he played...
Bill Fagerback.
He played the part as Tom Collins. That's who the character is.
He did a great job, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Tom is the character I'm most curious about in the 2020 adaptation.
And I don't even know who plays him. I kind of just want to be surprised.
We looked it up. You forgot, so I
yeah, I forget. I have goldfish brain.
But yeah, I just, this was 1994. and they did a new adaptation 26 years later. You know, these days we're a lot more conscientious of these types of things, and sensitivity and being PC and whatnot.
In my opinion, is sometimes we overcorrect. Not that we don't need some correction, just...
For sure. Definitely. But I'm just really curious to see what they do with this character. I was also disappointed, but I completely understood the fact that they didn't include the debate over sending Tom as a spy to Las Vegas. I think if you included that debate in the miniseries, it would be hard for the audience to get on the side of the council, because you really have to justify that.
Yeah, and it's not easy.
Yeah, but I mean, still seeing them like all hypnotize him, it just seemed bad. I don't know. Tom's a very complicated character. One of my favorites, though. I love Tom Collin.
We stand for Tom Collin.
Yes, MOON. That spells we stand for Tom Collin. So in the last episode, we mentioned that we didn't think that this miniseries was very scary. I think the only thing about episodes 1 and 2 that I thought was even kind of scary was when Larry's mother died, and she was doing like the whole bed shaky, creepy thing. Did anything get under your skin?
I could see things that might have gotten under my skin if I was 25 years younger.
Yeah.
And
the church scene was kind of creepy.
Like the idea of that's kind of creepy.
Maybe not the execution as much, but
yeah, I did bring up that I thought it was that they didn't skimp on the dead bodies,
and their props, like the corpse props.
Yeah, they looked
were
great.
Good.
Yeah,
they were good. Yeah.
They really sold the apocalypse pretty well, and that can be unsettling if just the idea of that doesn't bother me. I imagine the apocalypse every night.
I've read and watched so many apocalypse stories.
That's just the idea of it doesn't get to you.
And games now.
I think some of the interactions, as much as he was chewing up the scenery, when it came to Randall Flagg interacting with Nadine, kind of just showed how unstable of a person he sort of was, and I think that was kind of creepy. Their whole sex scene was a little bit creepy.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the sex scene here in a little
bit. But I don't think anything was overtly scary.
No, not really. Maybe the mob mentality of the people in Vegas at the end.
Which was different from the book, because a lot of them were a lot more somber in that one. They weren't too sure of it.
Vegas overall was just different. It was more
pro Flagg.
It reminded me of the alternate timeline in Back to the Future Part 2, where Biff gets the almanac and he has like the casino and he controls the cops and there's bikers all over the place.
That's a pretty apt description, actually.
That's what it reminded me of. In the book, they go into how like they're really cleaning up the city. They have a school. They're focused on education.
And people are mostly just going there because it's effective.
Yeah, and leading their lives. But like in the show, when people are like cleaning out the streets, it shows like armed guards like looking over them, making sure they're working.
And the miniseries really portrays Vegas more as how the people in Boulder were picturing it.
Right. Whereas in the book, that's not the case at all.
They're just people who are choosing they're just making poor choices, which is part of those themes of the book.
And in the same way, it doesn't show any of the quote-unquote darker sides
of Boulder,
right?
Yeah.
Not that anything like super bad happens
but
in Boulder.
There's just enough of that, like people are trying to get there are some people who are looking for political power. There are some people who are walking the streets drunk because there's no rules.
Smashing windows and...
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's a lot more black and white in this miniseries.
They also don't address the fact that not everybody in Boulder works. Not everybody pitches in. Some people are
they're just there to like a free ride.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of moving into general criticisms. What was your least favorite part? What would you change?
Hold on, let me pull my notes back up. Let's see here. My biggest criticism, I think, was probably Trash Can Man, and we just ranted on that. Rat Man, I wrote, whoa boy.
So, this was adapted by Stephen King. He wrote the teleplay. I don't know at what point when he was writing this, he thought, man, we need more Ratman.
I think I mentioned this to you while we were watching it, is when it comes to Ratman, you can either, like, cut him, which is probably what you should do,
Probably.
or you can add more of him so he doesn't seem like such a weird racist surprise.
Which he did, but he's still...
A weird racist surprise. What was it? I don't believe in none of your honky voodoo.
Your honky voodoo, yeah. Stop it with that honky voodoo.
Yeah. That I'd probably criticize that a little bit. This is probably going to reveal a little bit about Daniel, and I'm going to say this without getting too political. I don't think the national anthem scene is going to be in the next miniseries.
No.
If it is, there is going to be a taking the knee sort of allegory over people. No, the last government created the virus that wiped us all out. Why would we bring this back? That sort of messaging is going to happen. That's my prediction for the next one. I'm not saying if it's good or bad, but I do not think that scene is ever going to exist again.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
I definitely liked Glenn's whole rant about turning the power back on and going back. You know, we're just trying to recreate the world we had.
And that's why I love Glenn Bateman. He's that character for that sort of messaging. Mm-hmm. Having a sociologist in your book, I've been trying to write forever, and that's just not even something I thought about for when do I need somebody to talk about what I actually think? Oh, now you just throw in a sociologist.
And he's played by Greg Kinnear in the new one, and Greg Kinnear plays condescending extremely well.
He got progressively better.
Yeah.
Like, he went from, he's not bad, to, man, this guy is really selling these scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think for me, like, I've addressed a lot of the criticisms I had as we're going through. There's no, like, huge, like, Greek flaw here for me. It's a lot of little things.
It's a lot of those little tiny things that start to pile into something.
I think, for me, the biggest thing is tone. Mm-hmm. And I think this kind of the overall tone of the story is just kind of is a little more dry.
Oh, here's another note. They were trying to make it more like the poster.
Yeah.
We've talked about that Titanic-esque poster, and I honestly feel that's the word I couldn't think of at the time. They were trying to tonally make it match that.
Okay. The word I'm looking for is melodramatic.
Yeah.
And I think the overall tone was more melodramatic than I would have wanted. I know that was a 90s thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a TV miniseries thing.
Yeah, and I think it's such a dark story that I would have wanted something a little darker and a little grittier.
I think you could have either written it with more horror elements in mind, and that includes stuff like music, the way you frame shots, or frame it as more of an epic, more Lord of the Ringsy, with these. You don't really have the budget for that in a TV miniseries,
right? But
it was very soap opera in tone,
right? And I don't want to just say, "Oh, that's how it was in the '90s," even though it was, but it was able to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's an explanation, not an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I've said throughout this whole thing, it just makes me more curious to see the new one. Mm-hmm. From like what I've heard from other articles and podcasters, most people seem to prefer the first one to the new one.
Weird. Okay. I mean, it might be one of those It situations, so... Yeah.
Where community's pretty split over if you like the new It movies versus the old miniseries. But
yeah.
I don't know. So we definitely got a lot more sex in episodes 3 and 4. We talked a little bit about Harold and... I want to say Harold and the Purple Crayon, but Harold and his almost losing his virginity. That was a great example of something being super melodramatic. Was the scene where they had dinner, and then she is trying to get him to kiss her, where she's pulling the wine glass back, trying to get him in, and he just doesn't get what's happening.
I think the guy, I think Harold, the actor, he played that pretty well, and that I don't understand this social situation sort of way.
Yeah.
And trying to act like the big man. Oh, you better not leave.
So at the beginning, he's trying to be like, okay, I'm not touching her, I'm not doing anything, I'm not like getting all handsy with her. But as soon as she like lets him in, and they start not having sex, but doing what they're doing, he becomes a total ass to her.
Yeah.
He's like, shut your yap, Nadine, until this. And why don't you take a walk, Nadine?
This is what happens when you sleep with an incel. Not that I know anything about that.
No. And then, I don't know, if you would have asked me prior to watching the last episode what I thought they were going to do with Flag and Nadine's sex scene, I would have said, I don't know, because they can't exactly do what was in the miniseries.
They came pretty close.
It was so bizarre.
We didn't get to see Big Demon Cock. We did get to see him turn into his demon form and tell her, it's too late to say no.
When he became the Scarecrow,
yeah,
he had like worms like going through his face.
And she's saying no.
Yeah.
Um,
Rape would probably be the more apt word for that scene rather than sex, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was in the book. We didn't get to hear the phrase molten pig iron.
When he came, it was like molten pig iron.
I don't know how you get that phrase out there. You did get to hear Nadine say, your seed is cold, and I was like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that was cool. I don't think that was in the book.
No, I don't think it was, but when before she took her little leap and we got to see her hosed off.
Yeah.
I actually thought that line was pretty decent as a stand-in.
Nadine is being hosed off the side.
I also don't remember them saying it's time to take your stand as much in the book.
No, it was less literal. Like, I mean, I guess the third book is The Stand because
it came across to me as we need to explain the title to the audience.
Yeah, no.
For the people who can't read.
I think most people would get it.
Yeah.
I mean, surely there are some people who wouldn't, but I don't know. It was a little on the nose, but I think Stephen King has an issue with sometimes over-explaining things to make sure the audience understands.
Especially when he adapts something.
Yeah, and it happens in the books, too.
I don't know Stephen King personally, but I don't think he respects the average TV viewer's intelligence, at least not in the 90s.
No. And then moving into religion in The Stand, that's another thing where I felt like they amped up a lot of the religious talk in these last couple episodes compared to the book.
Yeah. And a lot of that is you can't see what's in the characters' heads again.
Right.
So you have to show it. You have to make them say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are better ways to do it. This wasn't the worst example of that I've seen.
No.
But just, there is more of it, is what I'm saying.
What did you think of the literal hand of God?
It was in the book.
I feel like in the book there's some room to interpret that differently.
I pictured a giant ass hand.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess, it's film, so you can't leave it so much up to interpretation. You have to show what happens, but
I do think and we've talked about this, how it's a lot more black and white.
Right.
I think that scene's a lot more dramatic when you realize there are people in the audience who don't want to be there,
mm-hmm.
but they've chosen to be there.
Yeah.
They didn't run away when they should have. They made... this scene, I was like, oh good, all of these horrible people are going to get bombed.
Yeah, and also, Flag also says there are kids there.
Yeah.
Which, not great. Although, I've been waiting for a time to bring this in. So something, when I read the book, that I kind of struggled with was, it made it seem like the point of Larry and Ralph being there was to distract Flag.
Just long enough for Trash Can to get in.
But it's a nuclear bomb. Mm-hmm. Even if they stopped Trash Can Man at the city limits, if it went off, I mean, I guess like the stimulus for it going off was
the electricity that went from can't remember the character's name.
Whitney,
thank you. And then turns into the hand of God, smashes down everyone, righteous and sinners alike were.
And I guess Whitney only was prompted to stand up to Flag
because of seeing Larry
and Ralph.
Ralph there.
Okay, that was a walk, but I got there.
Yeah. But it wasn't bad. I think the effects were bad.
Yeah,
but made for TV effects.
They're still better than the effects from the in the Langoliers.
Yeah, I grade on a curve. So,
and I like the alien at the end of the Tommyknockers, but there's
the rest of the Tommyknockers.
Yeah, there's this part where the main guy Gardner, he picks up the alien and he flings it.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's throwing a mannequin, and it's so obvious, and it's like, oh, cringy. But I don't know. So yeah. So let's just kind of wrap it up. Shorter episode this week. Let's kind of talk about your closing thoughts on this miniseries and what you're thinking about going into the next miniseries.
I'm excited for the next miniseries. Not because I have like super high hopes for it, but now I have two other things to compare it to. I did find out that at one point they were trying to get Marilyn Manson to be the kid, and that tickles me pink.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was a serviceable miniseries. It's a 90s Stephen King miniseries. I've said this a million times, if you can get on board with that, you'll have a fun time watching it. And if you can't get on board with it, you're going to think it's probably like a D or an F sort of experience.
Yeah, I could definitely like understand like somebody who hasn't read the book, who isn't indoctrinated into, the kingdom.
Yeah.
We're going to coin it.
That's
the kingdom.
That is now what the fandom is known as.
Yeah, we are now the kingdom. Definitely sitting down and watching this and going, this is stupid, I don't like this. I would say, with me being super indoctrinated into the kingdom, that I was not crazy about this mini-series, but liked it enough and appreciated it enough that I would watch it again. And
I would actually be thrilled to play the drinking game to this.
Yeah, I think that would be great. It's definitely better than a lot of its peers, like the Tommyknockers or the Langoliers. I don't think it holds a candle to it in any way.
No. After we get some more episodes under our belt, we'll have to do a adaptation tier list.
How do you think it compares to the Shining miniseries?
The miniseries. I thought you just said The Shining.
No.
I don't know. I'd probably put it about the same.
I think it.
I think some of the acting in the Shining miniseries is not better, but more what I think King was looking for.
Right.
When he was picturing that story being adapted.
The guy who plays Jack in the Shining miniseries, he reads the It audiobook, and it's terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would probably put the Shining miniseries just a smidge above.
Just a smidge above this.
But I'd say they're right in the same ballpark.
They're in that. Yeah, they're in that like sort of area.
Yeah, and then It definitely above them, and then Langoliers and Tommyknockers definitely below.
I do have something. It was going to be a surprise, but I do just want to go ahead and tell you.
Okay.
At work, I play what we call high stakes Skippo, which is, have you played Skippo?
No.
It's a card game. It's a numbered card game that's made for children, basically, but we do it to pass the time because we work night shift. And I didn't want to play because I absolutely hate the game. Well, my good friend Devaney went, well, what if it's high stakes? Because I'll play anything if we bet, because I have a gambling problem.
Yep.
I was like, okay, well, what are the stakes? She goes, if you win, I will buy you a jean jacket. And I won. So next time we are here, I should be dressed as Randall Flagg.
Nice.
Thank you, Devaney.
And then real quick, what about, we forgot Salem's Lot.
The Salem's Lot miniseries I really like.
I think that's my second favorite one.
I think I would put it right just below the It miniseries.
Yeah. Alright, so we could definitely do maybe a ranked list of all the TV adaptations. I need to get you to watch the new Salem's
Lot, yeah.
But yeah, all right. So, like you, I am excited to see the new one for all the reasons that we have said in the past hour. But yeah, I think I'm ready to close the book on the 1994 The Stand miniseries.
I am also ready to close this book.
Do you believe that, Happy Crappy?
I believe that, Happy Crappy.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Daniel, for helping me out with this.
Anytime.
All right, thank you everybody. Stay scary.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.